Okay, and here we go. So let me just share my screen. All right. Well, my name is Harpreet Gujral. I am a nurse practitioner with a doctorate in integrative medicine, in integrative health and healing. And I'm here at Rose Wellness because we're really passionate about having men, women, everyone, achieve their best lives with optimal health. Today's topic is weight no more, sustainable weight loss for health. And today's objectives are going to be how understand how genetics and epigenetics influence our metabolism and fat storage. We'll also look at relationship between hormone health and how insulin, cortisol affects our weight regulation. We'll look at understanding the role of thyroid in weight gain and metabolic slowdown. I am sure many of you, our audience is very savvy, has been doing a lot of research, reviewing things, attending sessions. So we know that you are eager to also see how the thyroid affects the weight. We'll learn ways of how insulin resistance, cortisol imbalance, and mitochondrial dysfunction can all drive weight gain. Because sometimes it's like not just calories in equal to calories out. There's a lot of things that go in hand. The next, we will learn on how gut health and inflammation can affect our metabolism, why traditional dieting fails from a physiological standpoint, and how functional testing can actually identify individual metabolic roadblocks and ways in which we can achieve a whole person functional health approach to have a sustainable weight loss. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and look at each one of these objectives and start understanding how this bridges the science between science and mindfulness. We're looking at self-regulation. We're looking at how functional medicine connects the symptoms back to root cause, and then coming up with a customized approach for each woman. We know that weight gain is a biological adaptation. We are living in, and I'm not saying, I mean, there are probably men in here too, but a lot of women are noticing in perimenopause, menopause, journey of our lives where we're noticing the weight gain is happening. It happens for men as well because they're going from andro through andropause. So we know that body weight is regulated by hormones, metabolism, and inflammation. Right now, a lot of us are in the sandwich generation where we are taking care of aging parents. We're, navigating a very busy life, whether we are in the state of Virginia or Florida or Massachusetts, etc. And also, we are raising children or, raising our four-legged kids, and so to speak. So the body prioritizes survival when it senses stress. And we all can sense some stress, just given the situation of, our weather and politics and, life in general, etc. And so when we understand that, it becomes much more evident to understand, why am I not losing weight? Why is this so hard to be in a healthy weight? And then we know that weight gain is often a protective response, even in spite of, it's not just lack of effort. You're trying your best, but it's a protective response where we are just not losing the weight. So when we look at genetics and epigenetics, I just want to remind us, even though there is genetics, that can influence the risk, it's the lifestyle that determines expression. So even though we have certain genes that can affect our appetite, our fat storage and how we are sensitive to insulin or not, we lifestyle can actually mitigate some of those things. But understanding where we are coming from allows us to, personalize that approach for us because we understand our own physiology. We know that epigenetics can determine which genes get turned on and turned off. So that's why it's really important to ensure that we have, adequate sleep. We're mitigating our stress. We're focusing on nutrition and movement to modify that genetic expression. Genetics, so to speak, calls it's loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. So it's really important to understand what our genetics is, but also have some control over our lifestyle and environment, which will give us a better idea, of how we need to, show up. Um, in terms of hormone health and weight regulation, so whether it's men or women, we know that, both men and women produce estrogen. We know that estrogen can influence our fat distribution and insulin sensitivity. So for a lot of women, during perimenopause, and I'm seeing women as young as in their 30s, and obviously, women well into their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who are noticing that they're gaining the weight. And we know that estrogen starts to influence our fat distribution and affects our insulin sensitivity. That's why testing is really important. We know progesterone, which is also made by our body for women, it affects our fluid balance, our appetite, our mood. And whereas insulin, can direct where calories are stored and burnt. So we know when insulin is efficient, it allows the muscles to pick up that glucose that's circulating in the bloodstream and and utilize it for energy, and not be stored as fat. So, that allows us to be in a healthier weight. Cortisol that is made by stress, cortisol hormone is very important, it is made by our adrenal glands, but that can shift the body towards fat storage under stress. So even if we are eating healthy and exercising and all of that, when we test our patients for cortisol, and if that is off, it's a good indicator, that, the body is changing the calories into fat storage under stress. So, we have this very holistic approach that we're looking at understanding what exactly is going on with the person. So not every person is the same. We're not using cookie cutter approach. And this way we can understand a much better idea of what is happening with the hormone signaling and, and looking at the patterns and rhythms of the change that's going on. Next we see is, estrogen deficiency, as I was mentioning, leads to increased fatty tissue. So what happens is when you can see these fat cells over here in the middle of the diagram, these fat cells, as you can see, there is minimal fibrosis, there's minimal macrophages, some blood vessels, but when there is low estrogen, these fat cells, are changing the size, they're becoming hypertrophied. The visceral depot, like the fat cells, instead of the subcutaneous, can also get into our visceral tissue, which is on the inside of the organs, which is very, very, it can be quite unhealthy and dangerous, and metabolically. So postmenopausal women, women who have low estrogen, and women who undergo hysterectomy can have adipose tissue expansion, more fibrosis present, and that can lead to, more fatty tissue. So normal estrogen levels will result in healthy subcutaneous adipose tissue, whereas lower estrogen leads to more metabolically, what happened here? Can metabolically unhealthy visceral adipose tissue. So I think that's really important to understand what is going on with hormones to our bodies. So in menopause, perimenopause, and metabolic change, weight gain feels different. I have hundreds of women that I speak to on a regular basis who would say, Harpreet, I haven't changed anything. I am exercising even more right now. I am trying to eat healthy. I'm really following these different protocols out there. When I open the internet or Dr. Google, like there are so many options. Which one should I be following? Because I'm not seeing a change in my weight, even though I'm making my weight loss my full-time job, so to speak. And it can be very frustrating. I'm laughing because I, personally have had similar, challenge in menopause, and I understand it very deeply. And having worked in weight loss departments, for many years, also gives me that insight of having heard, other women's and men's stories. So why weight gain feels different in midlife? Well, first we talked about how estrogen shifts the fat towards abdomen and visceral organs, so very dangerous. It's not just subcutaneous. Also, our basal metabolic rate, how we are burning calories, also reduces independent of calorie intake. So a lot of women are doing the same thing. They're eating carefully, they're exercising, but they're gaining weight about 5 pounds, 10 pounds a year, extra weight that's coming on, and it's just hard to, lose. We also know when we lose lean muscle mass, that will lower our daily energy expenditure. So we're just not burning the calories that we were previously burning, and that leads to another challenge of sustainable weight loss. So the goal is to understand what exactly is happening. We also then look at thyroid health. As you know, thyroid can be very important in setting our metabolic speed. Thyroid hormone regulates our energy production. It is a thermostat for how fast our metabolism is going to be burning. So we look at, how is thyroid affecting, we know stress, inflammation, our gut microbiome, nutritional deficiencies, all can impair how thyroid hormone, which is T4, which is the inactive hormone, changes into T3, which is the active hormone that goes into every cell and affects our metabolic rate, etc. So suboptimal thyroid function can actually slow down the metabolism and lowers the amount of fat that can be burned. So we start to gain weight and not understand why, even though we're trying so hard, it is not working. The current, system is not working for weight loss. Next, we look at insulin resistance. So we know that insulin is the master driver of weight gain. What happens is when we have insulin resistance, we eat food, we make insulin rises. If the insulin is not very efficient, it just rises way more, like the body is making way too much insulin. It's not very efficient, so body is making more insulin than what's needed to bring that glucose into the muscles. But what happens is when we have, the cells are resisting insulin, that sugar, the extra sugar that's not picked up by our muscle, gets stored as fat. And then we feel tired, we are hungry, we eat, and that just leads to the whole vicious cycle of, us having a little bit more hunger. Our body is storing everything as fat that we are eating. And we know that insulin resistance starts years before diabetes happens. And that's why we, look at functional testing approach. So we want to catch it years before when someone might become diabetic. We're able to catch that years before and actually help them, treat it. So if insulin is high, you're actually going to block the fat loss. We're not going to lose the weight no matter what else we are putting in place. So it's really important to make sure that we are, testing for insulin resistance as well. Next, we look at cortisol, stress, and how weight gain. All of these go hand in hand. So we know that when we are stressed, it affects the whole body. It affects our brain, it affects our cardiovascular system. We have high cholesterol, we have high blood pressure, we can develop risk for heart disease, strokes. It even affects our skin. We might notice our hair is thinning, our skin is no more the nice moisturized, is dry, and nails are brittle, which can happen from thyroid. It can happen from stress, and also happen from low estrogen. We also notice that we have high, because of cortisol, have high abdominal fat storage. So a lot of women call it the menobelly. They start to notice this midsection, fat that is, we're just not able to shake it off. We're trying, we're doing our abdominal crunches, we're working out, we're doing the strength training, but it's just very stubborn. And that can be very demotivating where, you're trying so hard and you're not seeing the results. So we know raised cortisol increases blood sugar, promotes visceral fat storage. It suppresses the thyroid hormone activity and also increases our cravings and fatigue. So we're tired and we're like, I don't know why I'm so hungry. A lot of women will say, I'm not sure what comes on me. I do so great all day long. And then 4 or 5 p.m., something just comes over me and I'm so hungry. I mean, this happens for men as well. So the body is just not ready to release the weight until it feels safe. And that's why it's really important for us to recognize, what is the cortisol level? How is the stress? How do we manage that? Because even for joints and muscles, you will have increased inflammation. You feel, I used to feel like an old woman because of the stress and joint pain from low estrogen. The gut people can have constipation. They can have loose stools. They can have indigestion, bloating, gas, acid reflux effects, all because of psychosomatic. There is real symptoms that develop when we have unmitigated stress. It also affects our immune system. We can have a reduced immune system, lower defense. People start to notice like they're getting sicker much more often. Like we are in the middle of, obviously, the flu season, COVID, strep, etc. And so people are noticing like instead of just having, once a year cold, they're having a lot more often, just illnesses because of high stress. Reproductive system, men and women are noticing that they're not it's not been easy to, for family, for fertility issues. People are having, reduced libido. We see a lot of people who are approaching with just that symptom is so significant. It's affecting our relationships, and, people are just not feeling well. So, so also exploring mitochondria. It's important to know that mitochondria, as you know, is our metabolic engine. So when we have an issue with mitochondria, it can affect us, in how it's producing cellular energy. We are, producing ATP, which is the cellular energy currency. And when our mitochondria, the old cells are just sticking around and not producing active energy, mitochondrial energy, we start to feel tired, exhausted. We have senescent cells, these old cells that are just sitting, really not doing much, but also, we are feeling low energy. We also can have chronic inflammation, and poor sleep. Both can also contribute to poor mitochondrial health. People can actually have poor mitochondrial health from excessive illnesses, inflammation. Low energy is often a cellular problem, not motivation. I see a lot of women and men who would come in and say, I was someone who exercised, went to the gym regularly, and I just can't bring myself to exercise anymore. Like, I want to do this. This is January 2026. I want to really change things. But I don't have that motivation. I'm not feeling, like I can go achieve things that I want to do. So please know that it's a lot of times it's not, your self-discipline, or it's not, it's what is happening in the cellular level is also, is affecting how motivated you feel. So adipose tissue, as you know, fat cell can be endocrine organ. So it's not just fat that we see. It's not a benign. We used to think it was just a benign, fat cells, but they're metabolically active. They produce inflammatory cytokines. They're producing chemicals that leads to inflammation. And excessive fatty tissue can actually cause our insulin resistance. We can get pre-diabetic, become pre-diabetic, diabetic. We can also have metabolic dysfunction, have higher weight. And so it is both, weight gain is both a cause and a consequence of inflammation. Cytokines are the small signaling molecules that the body produces. Some are good cytokines, and then some are inflammatory. They actually, cause more inflammation in our bodies, and they act as messengers between different cells. So if our fat cells are making a lot of inflammatory cytokines, the cells are getting information that there is not safety, that, there's insulin resistance. So the cells are getting tired and exhausted, and the mitochondria are not as efficient. So our body just continues to feel, not active, tired, and not able to lose the weight that it wants to lose. So, how else is our weight affected? Now, I hope you're recognizing like there are so many factors in the weight equation, as opposed to just telling the person, oh, you might not be trying hard enough. You might, not be doing everything that there is. And I think it's really important for us to say, understanding like all those factors that can affect and keep us stuck in this extra weight where we are not feeling good. I just wanted to welcome those who have just joined us. Please note that we will have the recording available at the end of the meeting. It will be sent to you, so you'll be able to view this presentation again. Okay, so talking about gut health and weight regulation, as many of you know that there is very significant gut metabolism connection. There is gut brain connection. So we get a lot of message that goes from gut to the brain, then brain to gut. And gut bacteria, which by the way, we have more genetic material from our gut microbiome than our own genetic material. So, this community that this body is, is made of us and our gut microbiome. And the gut microbiome influences caloric extraction from the food. So there are some gut bacteria that are very efficient. They extract a lot of, nourishment and are able to help with better metabolism. But then there are others that are extracting caloric extraction, but not helping us metabolize as quickly or as easily. It also affects our insulin sensitivity and appetite signaling. I have lots of people who might have had some infection, they had a gut infection, a couple of years ago, something changed, their mood is off, they don't burn calories as quickly, they're gaining weight, and they feel very fatigued, and they just don't know when they've done the testing, at a conventional medicine, everything is checking out right, like everything is fine, but they know like there's something not right and how they're feeling. So listening to the body and understanding like how, it can be so it's important to look deeper in what is going on with the gut. And we know that gut metabolism can also affect our estrogen, how estrogen is metabolized. And when the gut microbiome is imbalanced, it actually can promote the weight gain. As you can see, brain and gut, there are all these neural pathways, hormones, microbiome, metabolites, and immune system. There is back and forth. In our gut itself, we have 60% of our gut, our immune system actually resides in the gut. So it's so important when someone has an eczema or comes in with fatigue or something else, that we're looking at your gut and you're like, I don't have any gut issues. Why are we looking at gut? But we know that gut permeability, like in here, in this slide, really makes a huge difference. So when we have what's called tight junctions, so when you see in this diagram on the bottom, normal gut, you see that the cells, the finger-like projections are the villi that actually the food goes through, and these villi absorb all the nutrients. And as you can see them, they're really tight next to each other, so they really are well bonded. But when we have leaky gut, these tight junctions become loose, so things go right through. Multiple things can go through. And when our immune system is residing right there, 60% of the immune system is right there, it starts to tag things, even though they are innocuous, gets tagged. That's when our body can start making auto antibodies against thyroid and other things. And we start to notice our mood is off, our skin is off, we just don't feel as good. We are not having as much energy. And even though, you might not have necessarily had full-blown, GI symptoms, but we start to notice like there is something not right in our gut. So it's really important to know, this will lead to our immune system activation that can lead to more inflammation, lead to more antibodies, autoantibodies being produced, which then we know inflammation leads to insulin resistance and hormonal disruption. Okay. Then why are traditional diets failing us? Why am I not feeling well when, I worked at Innova Health System for many, many years, for 2 decades. I worked at Hopkins in the weight loss. And back in the days, we used to say calories in equal calories out. And we know now from this, the functional medicine understanding that calorie restriction may rise more cortisol. So it actually puts us in a place where the body says there's something not right. We need to keep our, person safe, let's say Nancy, and it'll start to lower the metabolic rate to keep our, the Nancy safe. So no matter how hard Nancy's trying, she's just not losing the weight. She is down to 1,200 calories or 1,100 calories, and the body says, we're going to convert everything into fat and store it because Nancy needs help. So it's really important to, not just looking at caloric restriction, but actually be very intentional of how we should be handling weight loss. We know metabolic adaptation happens, so our shift goes downwards to conserve more energy, so we are able to actually burn fewer calories to do the same work. And thus we are, starting to store all those extra calories into fat. And we actually are gaining weight. So every year we're noticing 5 pounds, 7 pounds, 10 pounds, and looking back and we're like, why am I 20 pounds heavier, 25 pounds, 30 pounds, 50 pounds heavier? So this helps us understand, like, we've been trying to do the right thing, but it's not necessarily helping us. So we know hunger hormones will increase because that's your body's way of protecting you, keeping you safe. So ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, goes up. And then weight regain, even though someone might lose the weight, they will regain it. When you lose the weight, there is partly fat lost, but also some muscle lost if we are not losing it correctly. But when we regain the weight, it's all fat back. There's no muscle regain. So in general, we are lowering our metabolic rate. And every time we are gaining weight, losing weight, and then gaining again, all this seesawing, leads to us, lowering our metabolic rate even further, and the weight loss gets even harder, even though we're trying, to do everything the right way. So that's why functional medicine testing really can be helpful to figure out what is going on in your specific case, because cookie cutter approach does not work for everyone. Everyone's body is different, our metabolic roadblocks are different. So when we can understand what kind of dysfunction is happening, we are able to actually figure out the root cause. And in fact, as I was mentioning, when insulin resistance happened years before someone develops diabetes, it's really important to catch it at that state so that we can prevent diabetes from happening. When people get osteopenia, we want to prevent osteoporosis, and improve them so they actually can have healthier bones and not get into osteoporosis. So it's important to have the functional medicine testing, which will evaluate the patterns, figure out not just labs, because I'm sure you've gone to your, regular conventional, practitioners who have done your labs and your CBC, chemistry, kidney function, liver function, everything is looking good. And so nothing is wrong with you, but we don't know why you're not losing weight. And it can be very demotivating. I mean, I, have been there myself as a menopausal woman. So I, having walked that path and having witnessed that for hundreds and hundreds of people, I can say that it can be very demotivating if the right help is not available to us. And I think it's really important to figure out why weight loss is stalled, why is this not happening, so we can replace this guesswork with precision and figure out what exactly is going on in your case so we can help you. I think that is, one of the important keys, which I love about functional medicine is it's not a Band-Aid. It's really about figuring out the actual, root cause analysis. So this is one of the examples of, testing that we do, especially for women and men when they're looking at their hormones. So this is an example of a woman's, test result called Dutch test. We have other, a couple of different tests to measure that. It's a dry urine test, and we see, as you can see here, it's looking on the left side, it's looking at your daily cortisol pattern. So we figure out what's going on, with your cortisol. Are you producing enough? So in this particular case, when you see the black line on the daily free cortisol pattern, you see it's a very low level. Whereas the big graph, the beige or green line that you see there, those are the rest of the people, the population. So this particular person is having very low amount of cortisol production. She's exhausted, she's tired, she's only 46, and she's just not feeling well. And when you look at her hormones, her estradiol is normal, but her progesterone is low. She's moody. She can actually have issues with, rage or brain fog, and, is exhausted. She's having memory problems, and she's, concerned about her relationship at home. She's concerned about her, performance at work. And so it can be really daunting. It's not just weight gain that's affecting our, health or confidence or how you're doing. It just gnaws at us on all aspects of our life. And so I think it's really important to understand in detail how these hormones can play a role, and that's specific to you versus a cookie cutter. This is what we should be doing for you because this is what we have done for the previous woman who walked in here. So that's not the case, and that's why we need to have these testing done, so we figure out how is your DHEA, which is produced by your adrenal glands. We check your progesterone. We look at your estradiol. How do you break down the estradiol? Is there any concern for when estradiol breaks down into different forms? Is there a concern about something that is very high? For example, the 16-hydroxine here was elevated, which is concerning. So we sit down with you, get these tests done, understand what's exactly going on so we can go there versus, throw the spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks and have that kind of approach. So it's really important to be more precise and figure out what exactly is going on so we can support you, accordingly. This is the specific, another part of the adrenals that we were mentioning with the Dutch test. So it's looking at your adrenal hormones, as we mentioned, your adrenal gland. As you can see, when we have stress, we can produce, we start to make our hypothalamus and pituitary more activated, which can, by the way, pituitary gland can affect our adrenal glands. These are cashew-sized glands on top of our kidneys, one on each side, which produces DHEA and cortisol. So DHEA is responsible for our hormones. Cortisol is responsible for, all of our, activation, our goals, etc. When we wake up, how are we doing? So having this information specific to each person allows us to take steps that are specific for them, whether it's medication, it's supplement, it's fixing the stress, it's figuring out what else is going on. For example, another test that we do is, a gut test. And in the gut test, we actually look at stool. We want to understand what is going on. Are there any, commensal bacteria? Are they limited? So commensal bacteria are the good guys. We check for how are they doing. And we also look at the bad guys, in your recent travels or past travels. Have you been exposed to a bad gut, bug that is keeping you sick and actually making your metabolism rate low, keeping you sicker with gut, symptoms? And once we find that out, we're able to go for those specific things and help you feel better. So I think it's really important to understand like all of these approaches and figuring out, how we can support you versus just one way of saying, let's have you on a low calorie diet and please exercise some more. And you should be losing weight unless you do not have self-control. So I think that's really important to know that when you look at physiology and you look at all of these different, symptoms that we recognize that, there is important key takeaways that we see is there's genetics role, plays a role in our metabolism and fat storage. We know insulin resistance, cortisol imbalance, and mitochondrial dysfunction can drive this stubborn weight gain that's just not coming off. We know that gut microbiome and intestinal permeability that can affect our weight cravings and inflammation. We know we can have auto antibody production when we have gut permeability and not address it. People can have skin issues, mood issues, etc. We understand why traditional dieting fails from physiological standpoint. It's not motivation standpoint. Like you're trying to do the best you can. But functional testing identifies what is your unique metabolic roadblock so we can work on them and help support you. And really looking at this whole person functional health approach that achieves sustainable weight, without extreme dieting, because gone are those days when we are putting people on 500 and 600 calories under supervision, etc. We can really achieve good results. For example, in this case study, I wanted to share with you one of our obviously her picture is It's not her picture, and her initials are, not her real initials, but she is a 51-year-old woman who worked with us, and she was in perimenopause when we saw her at 51. She was really trying hard. She was at the gym 4 or 5 times a week, waking up in the morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock, really disciplined, going to the gym, trying to do everything she could, made her weight loss as her almost like a second full-time job, in spite of the dual duties she has, taking care of her mom who was not well, and then taking care of the kids. And she was having years of trying and not seeing results, and she was really feeling so defeated. And I'm so glad that, she sought help. And through a very thoughtful whole person evaluation, we were able to find out that her gut health was affected. We looked at her hormones. We figured out her insulin, resistance. And once she was systematically, methodically able to, figure out what exactly was going on, we were able to help her piece by piece, like setting the foundation of hormones, making sure the gut health was, optimized again, getting rid of, one of the bad guys, the gut guys, and then adding more to her commensal bacteria, the good guys that are involved in healthy body functioning. Her metabolism responded. She was able to lose the weight slowly but surely. It took, some time, but she was able to lose 14 pounds. I mean, that she was really, really trying hard. And this actually included gaining strength and muscle mass. So it wasn't just fat loss, but it was also gaining the weight. And at Rose Wellness, we have in-body scans. So we have you, monitor your fat mass, your muscle mass, your water mass. It's really important for us to see how are you doing overall at the baseline. And then as you progress and make, all the changes, and we test and we start working towards that weight loss or optimum health, we start to notice that the in-body scan is improving in muscle mass and water content. So that really made her recover her own true sense of trust and her own personal empowerment. She's able to take care of her mom, and be a professional woman, take care of family, feel vibrant, capable, grounded, and not feel this, looming weight that hasn't changed for her, that just keeps her feeling stuck in there. So I think it's really important, for us to look at this holistic approach that will address root causes, that will personalize the support that you receive from a health coach, from meeting with a practitioner, from having functional medicine approach, getting in-body scans. We have sauna, in our clinic, etc. And we honor your unique body and your unique style. Like what resonates with you may not resonate with the next person. So I think it's really important to cater to that, and being more authentic with what works for us. So with that, I just want to say, I think it's time. If you are here, you are either doing this for yourself, or you're here because you want to help someone else in your life who is going through similar challenge. And it's really important to uncover the root cause of your symptoms and create a treatment plan that works for you. I would love to work with you, and you can schedule, an appointment. We are accepting new patients, both inpatient, in person, and we also do telehealth. So please give us a call at this phone number, 833-767-3935. I will stop recording, and then I will take any questions that we have in the audience. And thank you so much for your engagement.